Wall Street posts its biggest loss since June as traders fear the Fed will soon start scaling back its stimulus measures. A profit warning from Walmart adds to the nerves. Hello there, a very warm welcome to you. This is World Business Report with me, Alice Baxter. In just a moment, tough times for the world's biggest shipping line. But first this hour, we start right here on Wall Street, because it's where traders at the New York Stock Exchange had a serious bout of nerves on Thursday. Well, that prompted a big sell-off on the stock market that saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average slump 225 points. That's its worst day of losses in almost 2 months. It was a similar story across the board. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq also hit hard, as were US government bonds. So why all the nerves? Well, two bits of news in particular. The first was from the US labour market. A weekly report showed that the number of Americans signing on for unemployment benefits dropped by 15,000 last week. That took the total weekly claimant number to 320,000, which is the lowest level that we've seen since October 2007. Good news, you might think, but that got traders speculating that the US central bank, that's the Federal Reserve, will begin tapering off its stimulus measures as early as next month. Now, remember, it's currently pumping $85 billion into the economy every month. Well, the second bit of news came from Walmart, which is America's biggest employer. It reported weaker than expected quarterly profits and cut its earning estimates for the year. Well, because Walmart accounts for 10% of all retail spending in the US, excluding car sales, traders took this as a very worrying sign. As BBC's Samira Hussain now explains. Samira Hussain there for us. Well, let's see how Asian markets are faring. Rico Zon's in Singapore for us. Rico, those losses, good to see you. Those losses, are they continuing in Asia? Lies on the Fed and markets, to use that favourite phrase of all of us, jittery at the moment. Ricky is on there in Singapore. Many thanks. Now, if Walmart is a surefire indicator of the health of the US economy, what about the wider world? Well, for that, you need to look at the Danish company Maersk, which is the biggest container shipping company, seen as a direct barometer of world trade. Well, it reports second quarter results in just a couple of hours' time from now, and unfortunately, it's expected to say profits were down sharply on last year. Analysts think that they'll be almost a third lower, at 31% lower. Well, that's partly down to a plunge in freight rates. That's how much companies pay to ship their goods, between Asia and Europe, particularly because of the weak European economy. We're buying fewer Asian goods here in Europe. And that's the demand side of things, but there's also a supply issue. This is one of the many massive new container ships that were ordered from South Korean shipyards in better times, and now there's simply too many of them for the amount of cargo available. We'll of course bring you those results as soon as we get them in a couple of hours' time from now. Now, as you've been hearing, today marks a year since 34 miners were shot dead by police in the South African town of Marikana in a dispute over wages. Well, mining unions say that there's been little improvement since then, and strikes and protests like this one have been frequent across the industry. South Africa's economy has long been driven by mining, but what's it really like for the people who work hundreds and sometimes thousands of metres below the surface? Our correspondent Mark Lowen has been given rare access to a gold mine to find out. Fascinating insight there from Mark Lowen. OK, some other news for you now. PC maker Dell saw second quarter profits plunge 72% as demand for personal computers continues to slump. Quick look to see how Asian markets are doing. Rico just talked us through them very briefly, as he was saying that fall in US jobless claims has affected markets in the region as well. That's the view. Back in a moment for Papers with Naga.